Welcome back to another mini episode of the Authentic Man podcast. I'm your host, David Chambers, and today I'm going to be talking about something that keeps coming up in the work that I'm doing with men is breakups. And particularly what I'm seeing is men who are coming out of a breakup and really struggling, right? And what really is the case is that breakups can be one of the most transformational events in your life. I could probably say about 60 to 80% of the men that come to work with me, one of the catalysts for them to come and do this sort of work, to learn about themselves, to break their patterns of avoidance, to break their patterns of what's destroying their relationships or harming their dating life and intimacy, is a breakup or the looming event of a possible breakup. And one of the things that causes pain for men is that we take a breakup of meaning there's something wrong with us, that we're defective. We create this kind of shame experience. Like, we broke up, that must mean I'm bad, right? It must mean that I'm a failure in some way. And there's that part of our masculinity, that part of our masculine essence that doesn't like failure, right? There's a part of us that wants to succeed and win and conquer, right? And we have to be acknowledged that that is kind of part of who we are as like evolutionary beings. And we consider that if we have failed in a relationship, there's something wrong with us, and we create shame out of that. Like it's shameful in some way that our relationship didn't work. When actually relationships are constantly breaking down, I could say that I've probably had at least 10 to 15 failed relationships in my life, right? Up until this point. I'm currently in a successful one. And I would just say that it's successful not because we're still together, but more because we're together and we're happy. And I would say that I had numerous other relationships I would deem successful because I was happy and I got great lessons and I enjoyed it for what it was. And a successful relationship isn't equated to a relationship that lasts forever. We have in this idea in our psyches, in our kind of world here, in the Western world or the world in general, that only a relationship that lasts forever, is successful. And I really disagree with that, because that creates a shame that as soon as something breaks down, that there's something wrong with us. There's something broken. There's something shameful about, who we are as a human being. So I want to really invite you to see breakups not as some reason that you're shameful, but as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to shift and change into something different, right? Or to learn about your way of relating, right? Because we can learn about our relating and we can learn about ourselves from our breakups. So if you've broken up with somebody and you're alone, it's starting to look at yourself. It's like, okay, maybe you're feeling unhappy, maybe you're feeling lonely. What is missing from your life for you to feel happy and joyful alone? And your first thought might be like, that person. But it's like, it's not actually the person that was bringing you joy. It's the attributes and things that you got from being with that person. So you can start to look at that relationship and be like, okay, what I got was closeness and intimacy. And what I got was someone to talk to about my troubles, or someone who understood me, or connection and community if you had friendships and so forth. And you can start to create that in your life as a single person, right? And take some action in creating those things in your life. And you're going to go, but it's not going to be the same. Well, no, it's not going to be the same. It could be better. You could learn about yourself through creating these new relationships, creating these new structures, creating community, creating closeness and intimacy in other ways. And that intimacy might be through friendships, that might be through going to workshops, and having intimacy created in those spaces that are safe and devoid of being too sexual, for example, right? It could be you going out and creating a bunch of hobbies for yourself, right? Ending of a relationship can be a really beautiful catalyst to our own transformational change. You may choose to go and see a coach or a therapist as well. Like a number of my clients, like I said, have come to me after the breakup, and what that's propelled them forward to is into beautiful new relationships or beautiful levels of joy and happiness in their lives. So you can go to someone and help you unpack what happened. Take a close look at your behavior, your patterns that caused potentially to break up, because often there's some responsibility with us. Even if we think it's our partner's fault, they cheated on us or they've done something, there's responsibility that lies with us. And if you don't take responsibility for that responsibility, or you are unaware of that responsibility, you are bound to recreate that in another relationship. You're bound to replay out those patterns again. And I say this because I've had men who have come to work with me, decided not to work with me, gone and got into relationships, create the same patterns, and then come back and actually do the work with me, right? Because we'll just replay the patterns if we're not aware of them. We're not aware of them, first of all, and then we're not taking concerned and considered action to create a different narrative in our minds, in our bodies, in our unconscious minds as well, because so much of our actions are unconscious. And if you leave them there unconsciously, they'll just play out in the standard way they always have, that you were conditioned to do so from your parents and your family. So breakups can be a really transformational moment, right? And it really gives us opportunity to look at ourselves. Like, look at ourselves. Like, how was I communicating in that relationship? Was I shutting down emotionally? Was I overreacting? Was I overreacting when I had big emotions from my partner? What do I need to learn around how my communication is? Maybe there's some emotional stuff for you. Maybe you struggle to be with your partner's big emotions. You struggled in conflict, for instance, right? You got defensive, for example. Or you had patterns of avoidance, which is something I'm really specializing in working with, where conflict would happen, you would want to run away, or you'd want to retreat, yeah? Or you would in your mind be looking for exits, leaving for another woman or something like that. These sorts of ways in which that we struggle in relationship, that we play out. So it's really important to take a good look at that. For you, it's around assertiveness, and not being assertive and not leading the relationship, or just going along with things constantly, right? That's something I see in a lot of men. They're just in relationship with a woman and they're just going along and try not to rock the boat. They don't give their opinions, they don't give their thoughts, and then suddenly they find themselves in a relationship where there's hardly any intimacy or closeness or connection. Breakups don't have to be the terrible, terrible event that we often make them mean, because we get to choose what events mean to us in the long term. And that's a really important piece, because our brains are wired for that. If we take a breakup and go, okay, I'm going to use this as a way to learn about myself. I'm going to learn about my patterns of what's destructive patterns in relationship. And we start to use what we've taken for the relationship, and we work with someone who can and help us see, right, what's been going on that we hadn't seen, or our reactivity and our reactions and our shutting down and our assumptions and our negativity and our cynicism and our defensiveness. And we start to look at those and go, where do they come from? How can I start to learn more about that? How can I have the capacity to make different decisions in those moments, right? Or maybe for you, it was that as the relationship started to get deeper and more connected, that frightened you, and you didn't notice at the time. You just found yourself being irritable, and that's what destroyed the relationship. Or you had a fear that they were going to leave you, and that started to run everything you did, right? So it's really important to take responsibility, right? Take really ruthless responsibility for the relationship, for the culture that was created in the relationship, what you allowed to happen in the relationship, for the boundaries you didn't stand up for. And then do the work on that, so you can shift gears, so in the future you can have a whole different level of relationship and understanding of yourself. Because if all you do is have the breakup and go, it wasn't my fault, it was their fault, they're bad, or worse still, actually, is going, I'm bad, there's something wrong with me, I'm broken, you're not learning anything. You're just shifting shame and blame where it doesn't need to go. All right, I'm going to leave it there, because this breakup piece, I'm going to do a few more episodes on this. But if this is something you're struggling with, like moving forward from a breakup and needing to start to understand why it happened and what you can learn from it, feel free to drop me a message. There's going to be all the details down below, as always, in the show notes about how to contact me and work with me one-to-one.